Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't think this is going to be a particularly fun episode of this show, partially because some of the predictions I got right. Moneybagg Yo did get his album bomb, but it's also just small enough that I have to cover all of it, but also because some of the predictions I got wrong, and I would like to add a clarification and correction to last week, where I attributed a media-based radio shift to the surge of specific country songs and the top 10, and that's not quite accurate because it was more of an internal correction to their own numbers, and Billboard pulls on Nielsen data, which has a slightly different sampling spread of radio stations. And I bring all this up because I'm not a prediction show when it comes to the Hot 100, so much as just a long-suffering music critic trying to track this ongoing farce. Yeah, I maintain my own data sets, I can make some educated guesses, but that's about as far as I will go, especially as I know that all of the backing data sources are compromised to some degree, and they're not an adequate picture of an artist's actual success. Radio's been getting routinely rigged since the very beginning of the chart's inception. Streaming and YouTube can be faked and astroturfed, and playlist payola has been a thing for years now, and the iTunes charts, they are widely described by so many internal industry figures as a long-running, easily rigged joke, especially the singles charts. And while I will commend anyone who's trying to put in the massive effort to track Billboard's results off of all of that, try to discern their formulas, win over an audience of ravenous stans as a result, at least until the predictions they turn out wrong because Billboard shifts the formula or locks down their data sets, it's not really a shell game I want to play. I said this last summer on this show, there's a lot of artists who chase the stats because of their own contractual incentives to do so without the underlying understanding they're playing a rigged game, especially one where Billboard will redefine all the rules at their convenience or their own ineptitude more likely. And thus I treat all of this with a certain amount of detachment and ridicule, and I include this show. That being said, while I respect the hustle of anyone who's trying to make their predictions, build that audience, and would likely treat anyone building a compilation of all my bad predictions with a lot of bemusement, I've got over 1,000 videos, have fun. But if you're offering to write for my show to inject your own guesses and predictions because they might be better, I think you might have missed the point of what I do here. That's all I want to say. No hard feelings, I just want to make my point here. So with all that out of the way, our top 10. Where against all my expectations, the remix of Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande hit number 1. Now in all due fairness, I should have been able to call this a solid sales run and streaming boost plus YouTube and strong radio, it's got it all. Now whether it can hold it is an open question for me. We got that big Billie Eilish single coming, the sort of sales run is not guaranteed to stick here, and besides, Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic, it's still in the conversation with better radio and not lagging that far in sales. It'll have to make up some ground on streaming, but that's plausible, maybe. Then we got Peaches by number 3 by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar and Giveon, which has better streaming and stronger radio growth, but it will lag on the sales enough to make me think it might have a slightly steeper mountain to climb to try to return to the very top. And all of that is contingent on Rap Star by Polo G not recovering, because despite ruling streaming, its sales and the radio, they're not moving at the speed to sustain any sort of peak, so it fell back to number 4. Then holding solid, we got Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby, which actually saw a bit of sales traction and what looks like another win on the radio to keep it at number 5, but it's gonna face a real challenge from Kiss Me More by Doja Cat featuring SZA up to number 6, which does need to make up some ground on sales and the radio, but it's already winning rock solid on streaming. Now this elbowed back Montero, Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X down to number 7, which despite having better streaming and consistently robust YouTube, the sales have slid, and radio's just not catching on here, but it was still enough to push back Astronaut in the Ocean by Masked Wolf down to number 8, where it's got strong sales, but not enough to make up for its radio margin, or how it can't quite keep up on streaming. Now our last 2 songs, they're holding positions with both that are measurably on the decline. Up by Cardi B is at number 9 with a little bit more consistent strength in all channels, and Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo at number 10 with radio, and let's be honest, that's in pretty steep steep decline too. But on that note, our losers and dropouts, and since we just have the turnover of album bombs, we actually have a fair amount of both. In the latter category, both Starting Over by Chris Stapleton and Cry Baby by Megan Thee Stallion featuring DaBaby, they nabbed their year-end list spots for 2021, where Monsters by All Time Low, Black Bear and Demi Lovato, and Mama's House by Dustin Lynch, they fell short. Maybe just half a win there, I'll say that. Now the losers are a bit of a broader spread. Off the debut, we saw the expected slips for Young Thug and Gunna was solid with Drake at 36 and Ski down at 38, followed by all the gains slipping back from La Noche de Noche by Bad Bunny and Rosalia at 74, and Glad You Exist by Dan and Shay at 79. This is where I also feel it's noteworthy to highlight that some folks pointed to a lot of country gains last week as being caused by the ACM Awards, but I don't really think that's a complete picture. Now for Dan and Shay, or for say Elle King and Miranda Lambert, that kind of makes sense, as Drunk and I Don't Want to Go Home, it also fell back to 91. But take a song like Long Live by Florida Georgia Line, it was on its way out anyway at 93, down to 1 by Luke Bryan and starting to fade naturally at 84 despite his wins at that ceremony, and Tennille Lard's Somebody Like That slipped down to 65 after her radio run looks like it hit its peak. Outside of that, Richer by Rod Wave featuring Polo G continues to fade at 76, as does Headshot by Lil TJ, Polo G, and 504 at 85, Anyone by Justin Bieber's at 87, My Head and My Heart by Ava Max is at 88, and Masterpiece by DaBaby at 92. He really did think that was going to be a strong single, and it's not caught on. But anyway, to our returns and gains, and yeah, things got muddier here. Yes, How They Remember You by Rascal Flatts got just enough to hit 89, but the bigger story is Moneybagg Yo, with Hard for the Next, with Future returning at 53, and in our gains, Time Today spiked to 31, and Go featuring Big 30 hit 52. Now from there, I'm happy to say that POV by Ariana Grande made real strides in her radio run at 66, and Hell of a View by Eric Church had some sustainable growth on both radio and streaming at 28. But on the flip side, we had Nobody by Dylan Scott pick up his own little run at 69, and A Little Bit by Nelly and Florida Georgia Line hit 67 on an okay sales week, even as radio has been mercifully slow to get on board. Now the big spike came for On Me by Lil Baby, surging up to 15 because he got a big remix video with Megan Thee Stallion. Frankly, it'll be interesting to see how long this holds on, especially because it does have better radio than I was expecting. This could very easily make a run if the remix holds on. But on to our pretty sizable list of new arrivals, and spoilers, it's gonna be rough here, starting with number 100, Cleared the Air by Moneybagg Yo.
Put my little bitch in a loft, keep your eyes on the bread, I told her. I threw some diamonds in the Audemars, could've went and bought a car, open that truffle bag full of za, we gon' smoke to the mall.
So look, I've heard a lot of singles from Moneybagg Yo, and I've liked pretty much none of them thus far, but if there's a chance for an artist to change my mind, it does really come with the album bomb, where I get a little bit more exposure to some deeper cuts. I was willing to give him a chance, and man, this is not an impressive intro. Not only does he remain such a flat presence on the mic with his triplet flow, where he keeps slipping off the goddamn beat, the content is bargain barrel brand name flexing and screwing women, where you can tell that he treats them as extremely disposable. And the synth just sounds inert and flat as ever, drizzled over all the keys. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's bad per se, but it sure hell isn't memorable or good. And you know, while we're in this territory, number 99, Way Less Sad by H.E.R.
But I'm way less sad. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? No, I ain't happy yet. But I'm way less sad.
It's not the worst song on the album, but is that really saying much with this one? With the shuddering blare of the creaking trumpet, the fake hand clap, the clicking sound, and the trap stutters on a hook where Jack Med gets perilously close to his ear-scraping falsetto. Again, the production aesthetic behind H.E.R. is always the most frustrating thing, especially when it feels this thin. And while I get the lyrical sentiment of finding some smaller victories on the path to getting better overall, the poetry just feels very cloying and adolescent, especially when he's then turning to the audience to tell them to shut up and enjoy all the feelings. Yeah, no, that'll be a very hard pass on my account. I'm not a fan of this one. Pretty bad. Next. Number 97, Blame It On You by Jason Aldean.
If you didn't even miss me, gave you a million reasons, girl, not to be with me. Should've never let you go, should've never watched you go.
There are very few things as deflating for me as seeing a new Jason Aldean song charting. Most odds are we're not going to be getting rid of it for months if the radio catches on, and they're rarely anything close to good. But to his credit, this is better than I expected. It's not great because Jason Aldean is a pretty limp presence and trying to sell any sort of angst when the cymbals are so fizzy in between an awkward clash between drum machines and live percussion, not helped at all by all the synthetic backing vocals and whooshing effects, and a mix that really feels lacking in foundation and a bass line. But the guitar does have some sizzle, there's atmosphere here. More to the point, the lyrics actually don't suck. He got dumped and apparently he gave this girl every reason to do so, and while he would like to blame it on her, he really can't. He's gotta lay in this bed, and that is a look he can credibly sell. Hell, it's very similar to Don't Change Gone, which is a deep cut from 2014 from him that I think is probably his best song. So yeah, this is not really all that good, but I can't hate it either. It's fine. Take it or leave it. Number 82, Just Say Debt by Moneybagg Yo.
Just say that. No, I like her head. She got straight in the car and told me lay back. They want the script for that exotic. If it's him, I pay that. Zaza. Say she done, but this bitch toxic. She gon' make her way back.
Okay, 2 more Moneybagg Yo songs. You know, to his credit, I was trying to like this. His delivery's flat as ever, and the bass kicks are a little overweight, but the cascades of piano sounded alright, and the come up on the first verse seemed competently structured, and then all the momentum leaks out as he shifted to a much more basic flow on the hook, and then he can't stay on that flow, and by his second verse he's talking about forcing his newest girl to kiss other girls so he can see the insert homophobic slur here as he puts his thumb in her ass. Once again, I'm not hearing the appeal of any of this, because outside of the production, this is either forgettable or pretty much outright contemptible. I'll stick with the latter. Let's move on to number 80, Free Promo by Moneybagg Yo featuring Polo G and Lil
When
Durk.
everything I see is count. If I got paid for what they think about me, I probably lose the count. Don't need promo at this point, cause they gon' do their word of mouth.
Oh, thank God, there are some other rappers here who can add some dimension and personality to this. Yes, I know, it's a pretty standard trap groove with the fluttery pianos and the guitar accents. That is an aesthetic in this sound that's starting to feel a little bit overplayed from our guest here, until we actually get a guitar solo by the end, and it was actually really sweet. But let's be real, both our guests, they have more melodic presence and significantly sharper flows than Moneybagg Yo, even if I do think his more focused verse is pretty decent here, especially when his own father calls him to ask for money on his birthday. That is distinctive of detail, that stands out. And while Lil Durk and Polo G don't really go above and beyond with their street level storytelling and the deaths in their own circles, there is a rawness, especially Lil Durk's delivery, that sells it a lot better. And overall, yeah, it's a good song. I think the guitar solo at the end pushed it over the top, so yeah, I'll take it. Good stuff. Number 64, Come Through by H.E.R featuring Chris Brown.
Call my homegirl, tell your best friend you can slide to on the low or remote location. I don't want them see me getting fed.
Why? Just why did H.E.R have to go here? I can make the argument that Chris Brown needs H.E.R more than the other way around. It's just utterly exasperating to see him on another major feature where she is going to utterly overshadow him on a much darker vibe that he can't match. Now, Chris Brown is trying, but between the obvious pitch shifting, the thicker bass-driven atmosphere off the acoustics, and whatever the hell they tried to do on that third verse of pitching the vocals up, he just cannot convey the subtlety or intensity to fit it all here. At least to me, this is what really separates Chris Brown from someone like Usher or Drake or The Weeknd or so many other contemporaries in R&B. There's just a gravitas that he just doesn't have. But when I drill into the content, and with H.E.R playing for a slightly rougher around the edges sexy vibe, I mean, I hate to say it, but she's a bit too classy to sell this all that well. Give it to Doja Cat or Summer Walker and it makes a lot more sense, which to me, along with Slide, it feels like label pushes towards something that's more marketable rather than playing to H.E.R.'s strengths. And while she's way too good of a presence to make this a bad song, it's not really a good one. Frankly, it should be better. All I'm saying. Number 60, Botella Tras Botella by Gera MX and Christian Nodal.
De ella no más hablo en todas mis pedas.
Okay, I gotta explain this one. Both these guys are Mexican. Gera is a rapper, Christian Nodal is a singer, and this sounds like the sort of slow-tempo, acoustic, country-adjacent song that would not chart without the massive YouTube breakthrough. Honestly, it's just kind of so spare and otherwise simple with the gentle drums and the touches of keys that it feels a lot more traditionally rooted in country than most of what Nashville shovels out, just in Spanish this time. And the content is mostly in that lane too. It's a very traditional, straightforward drinking song where they got dumped and they're trying to get over their misery with bottle after bottle. And it just kind of leaves me wondering what the hell the greater appeal is. Maybe the stripped back presentation is a novelty coming from these two, so for a collaboration it must be so organic that's gotta be authentic? I mean, I'm comfortable admitting that maybe the emotion translates more strongly in Spanish or from a distinctly Mexican point of view. But for me, just okay. I'm really not sure it's gonna stick around. That's all. Number 59, Wockesha by Moneybagg Yo.
Sipping chasing with my reef, can't get my mind on Wockesha. Watch me put my heart in this cup. In my feelings, she my therapist, I'ma talk to this cup, I swear.
Alright, he's got 3 more chances here. And let me start by saying I get what this is trying to do. Play for a lethargic, hedonistic drug song all about the sex and the lean, especially with that Lil Wayne sample that opens it up, and how he uses Wockesha as a girl as a stand-in for lean, especially by the second verse where it gets pretty obvious. It's actually trying to be a little more conceptual, and the trap group behind him with the prominent samples, it's not bad. But again, we're stuck with Moneybagg Yo here, so even if it's intentional for him to sound half asleep, it's not exactly likable, and his flow remains as slapdash as ever. And while there might be a little bit more melody going through this, the clumsiness is glaring, and I just can't say it's all that special or good. Not a bad idea, just needed more. Number 54, If Pain Was a Person by Moneybagg Yo.
I done hit yours, you done hit mine. Why you still mad? We even. I ain't on that. The blogs put up anything. Shit made. And the crazy part, they believe from ghost. Nigga caught a charge and got locked up. Only reason dude still breathing.
You know, if you title a song like this, you'd think there'd be more here than an extended list of complaining about everyone who has talked behind your back. There's not even really a hook here. It's leaning really heavy on a really nice Luther Ingram sample. But when the entire song is 3 extended and not particularly well-structured verses separated by a bunch of spoken word whinging that Moneybagg Yo cannot sell with any sense of agency or intensity, you gotta go to the content, and I'm not sure it paints him all that well. For one, it feels defensive as all hell, starting off complaining about blogs and women that he just continues to mistreat, and his retorts just don't have a lot of weight to me. In comparison with a lot of his peers, he doesn't really have that pronounced street edge or any sense of threatening intensity, mostly because he also doesn't have a lot of storytelling to sell it. And that means a lot of his assertions of realness backed up by all the money he's stacking feels kind of flimsy, especially if this is the deepest root of his pain. I don't know, I don't like this particular brand of complaining song in general, and when Moneybagg Yo has even less charisma and structure in his flows, I got less patience in him into selling it. So yeah, not good. And finally, number 35, Shottas Lala by Moneybagg Yo.
Water rocks on me like I'm Tata Baba. Sipping lean like it's aqua. Papa, Percocet before you chopper. Chopper, when it bust, you hear Papa. Doctor, serving patients, I'm a trapper. Roster, I've been running with some Shottas.
Okay, why is it that the song where he is arguably at his most consistent in terms of content and detail, and even his flow, he picks one as choppy and childish sounding as this one? The choppy 1-2 syllable flowing together thing, it might make some sense off the jerky pianos, and again, even if the content is once again fucking doing drugs and stabbing people, there's a bit more flair, but it just doesn't sound appealing to me, especially on a song that feels like a glorified freestyle, barely clocking 2 minutes. It just feels thin overall. And with this as the last of his songs this week, the deepest appeal I see for Moneybagg Yo now, it's filling time for those who want someone between Migos and Gucci Mane, but with less likability, sloppier delivery, and really a lot less to say. And that's saying something. But that also means I'm struggling to find many positives this week as a whole. I guess Moneybagg Yo will get the best of the week with free promo, but that's more thanks to Lil Durk, Polo G, and the guitar solo than him. With honorable mention, I guess Jason Aldean for Blame It On You, which is not that good, but at least there's the seeds of something I like. And you know what? The worst of the week's also going to Moneybagg Yo, with Just Stayed That, and yeah, H.E.R. for the dishonorable mention for Way Less Sad. I know some people will be surprised he's not getting the worst, but again, I've heard worse from H.E.R. Next week, Look, it's probably gonna be a bunch from DJ Khaled. There's just not much else to stop him. Y'all been warned about that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you